we know that if you look in the Bible, every time that something was being birthed, there was the enemy will come to destroy.
Yeah.
So you had Moses, the story of Moses, and all the firstborns, boys were killed, saved. He ended up in the house of the Pharaoh, that whole story. And then go to Jesus. Look what was happening. So that's what I mean when I say it's the devil, because, and I know it sounds a bit like a little bit juvenile, but that you can see it's directed by evil because they got away. And it's so tragic and sad because, and another thing is, that's what makes it easier to be afraid. If you feel like you're alone and there's no God and there's nothing but this life.
Yeah.
And this is it's terribly, terribly sad. There's a terribly sad side to it. But we're in a position right now that had we not had my dad's prophecies, like if I didn't have what God said through my dad, I would also probably be a lot more lost than I am now. But because of what I witnessed through my life and what I have, obsessed over for the last 7 years, and because the reason I'm obsessing is because I'm watching it happen in front of my face. And I know my dad himself would be astounded. I know if he was alive right now, he'd be saying, good heavens, what have I seen? But it is that important. And if you look, even there's so many things in the timeline, like even in 1973 or around that time is when Klaus Schwab started the World Economic Forum. And that is the same year that my dad got saved.
Yeah.
So as soon as the decision was made in the timeline of humans, we've got this decision made between Kissinger and Schwab and whoever else was involved there in the early 70s that redirected history.
Yeah, it did.
That choice was made. God already knew, and he dropped down and said, Kim Clement, you're called to be a prophet. And he knew he was going to do that, obviously, but that all simultaneously happens.
So from our perspective, it's, there's God's perspective and ours,
Always remember God's perspective.
And then he tells Kim along the way on this video that you replayed, this will come to nothing. He's talking about the United Nations plan, Davos plan, the world. He says this will come to nothing. This will come to. Do you realize how significant that is? This will come to nothing.
They will fail, and they'll fail because of us. Because he saw the people of Earth, the citizens that are under these governments who are misrepresenting them, that they would be the ones to rise up, and it would particularly be the Christians. And let me tell you something: the Christians are the ones under attack right now. I mean, just get on any social media platform, and you'll start to see it. And then you look even the most unexpected things. For instance, in India, there's a man that I've been on his podcast. He's a podcast from India. We're going to interview him. And they were telling me about these extremist Hindus that are slaughtering Christians in India. And you think about Hindus, you think, well, these are the most peaceful people. They won't even eat.
Yeah, that's supposed to be that's the press, right?
But now you're starting to see that, and this has to happen, because it has to expose it so that we see for ourselves. So some of us saw a bit sooner than others. It is very easy to get lost in this. You and I, Steve, we know what Dad prophesied. Everybody watching us, we got to be in that little group. My dad even said it would be a remnant. Who knew? Okay, we kind of know what's going on, or when things happen, okay, God said this was going to happen. I mean, even my dad saying, you're going to say nothing like this has ever happened before in our culture, in our society, in the world. We've never seen anything like this before. I have him on camera with his arms crossed saying that. From the north to the south, to the east, to the west, across your land, you will say this has never, ever happened before.
Oh, I love that.
He wasn't just talking about the bad. He was talking about the good too. And so that's what we have to remember, is we keep that victory in our mind and in our hearts, that we've already won. In South Africa, there's a tribe, the Zulu tribe. Many of you probably have heard of the Zulu tribe. And they have, what they do is before they go into battle, they do a victory dance before the war.
Really?
so that in their mind, they've already won. And that is, my dad had that as his logo for his ministry when he first started out in the 80s, early 90s. It was this little logo. And that's what that meant. It was a victory dance before the war.
Oh, wow.
Our minds, we've already won this. And that is where we have to be. And we cannot allow ourselves to be afraid, just like he said. And there were other times he was prophesying and he said, if you fear, they will know it. And so you start to, if you fear, your enemy will know it. And so you look now, we reflect on, I'm using COVID as an example because it's an easy one, because we were all scared. I mean, we hear nothing like that had ever happened again before. And so we all thought, what is going on here? And I remember those first few months, it was very, very scary. And poor Trump was there just trying to help. And I, the whole time, was looking at China going, he'd been putting all those sanctions on them. He'd been making them pay. Maybe he was making everybody pay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is trouble. I could tell this is going to, they're not just going to, there was Xi smiling. He wasn't happy at all. And next thing you know, we get a virus released on this earth that came from, I'm sorry to say it, but it's true, the Wuhan coronavirus lab. If you think that it came from someone eating a bat, I don't know what to do anymore. This is the thing that I get frustrated.
You're right.
People are feeling this too. I mean, if you look at those indictments they're trying to bring up against Trump and Rudy Giuliani, and there my dad prophesied Giuliani. Also 2015, he said, Rudy Giuliani, you were a watchman in this nation, and though they may mock you, you will be a watchman again.
Wow.
I knew that prophecy was there. When the 2020 election happened, I knew who to look for. Where's Rudy? And there he was. There he was, bringing case after case, proving again and again and again and again what they did and what they've been doing, both parties. And that's why my dad saw God is dissatisfied with the Republicans and the Democrats.
Yes, he was. Yes, I remember that.
They've all got their grubby, greedy fingers into the tax bucket. And that bucket just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And those poor people in Hawaii, I mean, the things that are going, I don't know what's true or not true at this stage, but we need to be praying for her. We're looking right now to try to find a way to help them, but it's looking like things are being blocked and so many weird things are going on. And so we really need to pray for discernment that I've been telling everybody. Discernment. Pray that we see, and in our unity, it will be our strength that overcomes.
Yeah, and I'll just say this too, because we've been talking about this for 2.5 years with all our guests, you included, what's really going on. And if you're watching this, you've watched this show, or maybe you're just new to the show and you're saying, come on, you guys, that's a conspiracy. You are sound asleep if you're saying that. You are not even paying attention. You're not even opening your eyes. And I'm sorry to be kind of blunt, but if you're one of those that says, come on, you guys, that was just a forest fire. It was a fast wind. That's it. And you've watched these shows, or maybe you're finally just tuning in. If you still to this day think that was some accidental fire, you are sound asleep. You are in a coma compared to what you should know. It's like,
it's okay. All we want to do is wake you up.
That's
we
right.
don't want any bad for you. Go over
That's
to the
right. That's right.
They're saying things like, "Oh, finally, we're going to get Trump," and I'm going, "For what?"
Yeah.
For what? Because you were told to hate someone, that you hate someone so badly you would give up your own freedom.
Right.
Please.
Right.
I'm literally begging America, especially America, because if it's not America, the rest of the world will fall behind America. And that's why God made sure to send my dad to America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the thing. And we've got the BRICS nations over there. They're going to go back currency. They've got big plans. And these are the giants my dad saw. He saw the giants, the brothers of Goliath, when he was prophesying, is what he called them. He said, stand in glee, saying, we will cripple you, America. You will lose your credit. I mean, think of how profound that prophecy is, because he also saw Putin and 4 others writing things down. They had a plan. He could see what God was showing him.
Wow.
He couldn't see it in the news. We didn't know. I didn't even know what BRICS was until last year. He was seeing what he didn't even know what to call it. But he saw Putin and 4 others. That's BRICS. That's Brazil, Russia.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So Putin was there with 4 others. He saw robes. They were writing things down. He couldn't repeat it. I mean,
let me just say this too. Having said what I just said, you're in a coma. You're at that up to this second, but maybe from this moment on, when you're listening to 2 people who are seasoned in the prophetic and seasoned among prophets, have hung around prophets our entire lives. We know what God is saying in this hour, and we know that Kim, Donna's dad, said this will come to nothing. So the good news is, even if you are in a coma and you're hearing this, you can wake up right now. And the good news is you don't have to be afraid. In fact, there's a command not to be, because this will come to nothing. And I know that sounds like well, you're just contradicting yourself, Steve, because you just told us how bad it is. Yes, but the prophet said this will come to nothing. So it's almost like, yeah, wake up, because there's good news. This will come to nothing. So why sleep through it? Enjoy the show, basically, because God, it's like, I think it was 2012 or 2014, God told Kat Kerr to go to the middle of America. She knew the exact spot. I think it might have been in Kansas somewhere. And he said, you pound your staff and you say, let the show begin. And the show is God's show. He's putting the enemy on public display. He did it at the cross. And Johnny Enlow is one of those that said, not since the cross will we have seen a show like the one we're seeing in this thing. And, the only thing I'm sad that your dad wasn't here to enjoy it, but he's probably watching and is allowed to watch his own prophecies come true, and watch his daughter, by the way, enjoy sharing them. So it's it's like, either way we look at this, God is winning. And my wife and I were talking, Doreen and I were talking about trying to get the mix right when we have the shows about telling people what the enemy is doing, but ending with, okay, guys, God's got this. All you got, it's like, it's hard to get that mix right. We're trying even today,
because you don't want to be someone who is an alarmist that's running around with bad news all the time. You remember, my dad didn't want to be that way ever. Right. He never wanted to. Well, if he ever had to if something was he knew was going to be bad, that he had to prophesy, it was harder for him to do that because he didn't want to. He was a very positive person. He looked at the world, where is the advantage, and that's all perspective. But truly, the balance of that is in the prophecies. So you might have that warning, but there's always God saying, I've got this.
Yeah.
I can remember my dad prophesying, and also these are things that he prophesied that we're living now, where God said, I will lead this nation. I will. So whoever's there, God is actually in control of it, and he's going to make sure that the world understands.